Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. It is Friday the 19th of July and today we'll start with Novo Nordisk, one of the obesity drug makers, Wegovy. Massive sell-off after rumors, or not rumors, but fear of competitors moving quickly into the market. We saw the sell-off hitting the market here on the 17th, taking it to closing this gap here, close below the support, and yesterday also closed below the support at 906.40, trying to get back above today. If it can do that, maybe we could see a little bit of a relief rally, or there are definitely some bottom fishers in there. Problem is though, we are now in a bearish trend and there is risk down to around the 850, 845 level. We can also draw a trend line here and then have a little bit of an idea of what's going on. We have some support around these levels here, so that's, you can see also in this region. So very much interest in this region here, but at the moment we are bearish, but I think we could crawl a little bit higher in today and maybe early next week, but it looks heavy at the moment. And the biggest competitor, Eli Lilly, huge sell-off here after this top reversal like pattern. Then we have this gap here and then massive sell-off yesterday, taking out 50% of the uptrend. 50% of the uptrend gone in like 3 days. That's after 3 months of uptrend. So there's some panic going on here. RSI in negative sentiment. There is risk down to around 800, 812, 795, where we have some strong support after this, consolidation area here. I think, however, that we will see a little bit bounce when the market opens later today, but keep an eye on it. If it takes out the lows from yesterday at 836.60, well, then we could see another sell-off down to around that level there. Moving on to the broad market, we have S&P 500 that closed yesterday below the lower rising trend line and below the 55.76 support. There's now risk down to around 54.47. Excuse me. Where there's some support. It has really turned the tide, but we also had some divergence here on the RSI. It's better illustrated if I do this, and you can see that the RSI values were declining. So I remove this one, and you can see it actually broke below the rising trend line there. So divergence there indicating we are in a correction phase, top and reversal and correction phase. Nasdaq 100 actually opened quite strongly yesterday, just below 20,000, but has sold off throughout the session. And pre-market is also down a bit, so 19,347, around this to 19,200 we have some support. In Europe, EUROSTOXX 50 that did show some promising signs late last week, has been seeing sell-off, heavy selling below the 48.88 support, and now we are moving towards 4800, 4812 in this area here, down to 47.75. We have this gap area, so that's a bit of a strong support, but if it closes below that, well, then we are seeing further downside potential. But we have turned the tide here, and it looks quite heavy. The RSI testing the 40 threshold. Will it close back below? We are already in negative sentiment and expect further selling on the EUROSTOXX DAX also. We couldn't hold on on the 12th here, and now we are back below the cloud. We are below 100 moving average. RSI, maybe we shouldn't trust this break here. It was a false break apparently. If it does close back below 40, I think we will see here the DAX index pushing towards 18,000 over today and also going into next week. Amsterdam index, of course, hit by especially ASML selling pressure. Please do see the analysis I published earlier this week on ASML right after the earnings. Closed below 980 for a second day in a row, so it seems like we also turned the tide here, and there's no support until around 897, 892 in this support area here. RSI is about to move below 40, and it's already been showing divergence for quite some time, so it did warn about a exhaustive trend. CAC 40, I think we will move this one. Well, it needs to close below 74.64, then it has for sure closed that gap area there, and there will be further downside potential to 7,300. And the Swiss market also turned sour yesterday, and is currently testing 12,181 support. There is divergence on the RSI, as we can see. The RSI values are declining where the market moved higher, and with this a little kind of a shooting star, while we have a top reversal in place, close below 12,180, well then expect pressure down to 12,000, maybe 11,955. Euro dollar sell-off yesterday after reaching 109.50. Did talk about 109.50, but there was potential up to 109.80. There's still, because there's no divergence on the RSI, so it's not unlikely we could push up there a little bit later. But now we are in for a correction, and if we add the RSI, and I advise you to do so to look for retracement levels. Well, a sell-off down to around 108.50, 108.40, which is the 38.2 retracement. It seems likely, and then I think we will resume uptrend. We have all the moving averages are pointing higher, so we should move higher on euro dollar within the next week or two. Of course, time is always really hard to predict. Euro sterling 84.28, likely to test that shortly. Will we actually form a double bottom instead of moving lower? I mean, we do have still negative sentiment on the RSI, but as you can see here, there's actually divergence, so meaning the sell-off down here is in exhaustive mood. But if it does move around and close back below 84, well, then we could see the selling pressure resuming towards 83. The cable sterling dollar reached 1.764 projection, 1.764 projection at the 130.50, and then we also have a correction, but there's minor divergence here. You can see this RSI value lower than this one, so we are in for a correction that could take us down to around 128.5, around that level. What we can do, I would do this at the oops, sorry for that. We just need to adjust that one. So also down to 128.80, around that level, maybe a little bit lower in this correction phase here. Dollar yen, that dipped below the 786 retracement, all just below the cloud and just above the 100 moving average, has bounced strongly, and I think it will turn around if it can get back up. And let's just draw a trend line, or a line here. So if it can get back above 158.85, well then dollar yen will be back in a bullish trend. For now, negative sentiment. We are in a bearish trend. Could push lower, but I think we will see a little bit of bounce going into next week. Euro yen just below the 61.8 retracement and the 170s, but 6.3 correction. If it moves back above the 172.93, well then it's back in a bullish trend, and let's just put that right there. No divergence on the RSI and positive sentiment. I think we will see it crawling higher in the next week. We have Aussie yen dipping just below the support at 104.86, dancing around the 61.8 retracement. I think we will see also a bounce here coming days higher. We are well above the cloud. We are above the 55 moving average, giving some support. So I think we'll see also yen pushing higher in coming days. We have the sterling yen that only did a 50% and a little bit more correction. There's no divergence on the RSI. I think we will see it pushing. If it does move back above the rising trend line and a close above 205.80, well then we are in a confirmed bullish trend again. Also, dollar, a little bit a larger correction, but we did talk about there was risk down to around 66. We talked about that yesterday, 66.60, which is the 618 retracement and the 55 moving average. There's no divergence on the RSI. I think we'll see a correction down to around that level, and then uptrend is resuming, I believe. We have dollar Canada back above the clouds, and if we can get RSI back above 60, well, then there is a good chance we can see dollar Canada pushing towards 137.85 resistance area. Otherwise, it will slowly fizzle again towards 136.50, and it will still be stuck in this range we've been trading for quite some time. EURUSD finding good support here around 96.50, retraced 38.2. retracement, Fibonacci retracement around that level. I think it will slowly start bouncing a little bit, but it really needs to get back above the 97.74 for uptrend to resume. We have dollar Swiss finding support here at 88.26, 88.25.26, bouncing here. Let's get rid of this one. We are in a negative sentiment, but there seems to be a little bit of divergence down there. So I think we will see a bounce here towards the 89.50 the next couple of days. I'm not quite sure we'll get up there. We have the 55 moving average coming down, so that will kind of putting a lid on it. We also have 200 that is actually declining. So it seems like the pressure is to the downside. It's probably the euro dollar that could be doing some of the action. Dollar index dipped just below 103.50. We are in a downtrend. I think it will push lower, but for now we will have a correction up to around 104.25, maybe a little bit higher, 104.5 before I think downtrend is likely to resume. You can see all moving averages are declining, kind of putting pressure on the dollar index. Gold hit by sell-off after, and let's just zoom in there. Didn't really reach the 138.2, but it didn't really reach 2,500, but it was fairly close to, let's see, 24.84. No divergence on the RSI. As you can see, let's just draw a trend line, and I'm just showing you this how you can do it yourself. So you can draw trend lines on the RSI. It actually broke below the rising trend line and below the 60 threshold. So we are in for a correction that could potentially take it down to, let's see, around, we are currently around the 38.2. It could dip down to 2400, maybe 23.88, but then I think we will see the bullish trend coming back and resuming towards 2500. On the other hand, we have silver that's really heavy and currently just above the testing the upper falling trend line here after the breakout, after rejection at 78.6 correction. If it takes out 28.55, well, then expect further selling down to 27.26. But if it does move back above $31, I think we will see a push towards higher. But for now, fairly heavy, to be honest. On the copper side of the story, and maybe that is what is dragging on it, because silver is also an industrial metal, so to speak. Copper took out 432.90 and is in a downtrend. Support around 413, 410. I think we could hit that level, and then we also have the 200 moving average coming up, giving a little bit of support in this region here, and then I think we'll see a bounce. But it really has turned the tide here. Let's just have a quick look at what it looks like on the weekly. See how we actually reach that target derived from this descending triangle-like pattern there for some time ago. Let's leave it, but get rid of this one and get rid of this one, and we could now be in a bearish trend short to medium term. However, no RSI divergence, indicating we are likely to see higher gold prices, and we also have all the moving averages still pushing higher, but just a larger correction here. But when it will turn around again, it's really, really hard to detect or to estimate at the moment. Moving on to WTI, that actually yesterday were bouncing quite strongly, but has faltered a bit, really sliding back. It really needs to break out 84.52 and $80 on the downside for a direction. More or less the same picture on Brent, but we can see it's actually in a bearish trend. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. Will it push lower or will it turn around? We are above the cloud. There's still positive sentiment, so we should push higher on Brent, but it's quite volatile and it will take some time. If it takes out the lows here from the other day at 83.30, well, then expect further selling pressure. And finally, as usual, the US 10-year now back above the 4.17, but we are in a downtrend and we could push lower in the coming weeks. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and a happy weekend when you get to there. See you Monday.